Today I want to share a low prep teaching activity to help students practice reading for specific information. I'll link a printable example of this activity in the description of this video, but really I encourage you to try using materials from your textbook or from other contexts to make this fit perfectly for your students and your class. When I first did this activity, I actually did adapt it from a reading in our textbook and from one of the practice activities for that reading. For a lot of students, it's not very engaging to go through textbook practice activities in class, even though you're practicing important skills together. So I like finding ways to make those activities more interactive. Especially in a language class, it's nice to find ways to give your students an opportunity to communicate with each other, even if they're working on a skill like reading. This particular textbook activity required the students to read the text and answer some questions about it, and to identify where in the text they found those answers. This can be really helpful for reading for specific information, but also for noticing how texts say the same idea but in different words. In order to do this activity, you'll need a few components. First, you need the full text. In my case, it was a text from our textbook, so the students were just reading it from the book. Otherwise, of course, you could print it out. Either way, every student or small group should have a copy of the text. Then you'll also need a copy of the text broken up into individual sentences or sections. Each sentence or section should be labeled with a number or a letter, and you'll only need one copy of this paper because you're going to cut out those strips and tape those labeled strips up around your classroom. The last thing you're going to need is a page with a list of comprehension questions about the text. It's really important that these comprehension questions are not in the same order as they're found in the text. Each student or small group needs a copy of these comprehension questions. So the first thing we did was to read the full text. You could do this individually in small groups or as a whole class. Or if you're short on time, you could also assign the reading for homework before class. Then students put away the reading and you hand out those comprehension questions. Students will travel around the classroom with their comprehension questions, and they can do that either in small groups, pairs, or alone. I generally like to give students the option to choose, just so that students with different learning styles have the option to complete the activity in the way that's most comfortable for them. Maybe they already know the answers to some of the questions because they remember it from the reading, so they can start to answer the questions, but they also need to find out what part of the reading the answer is from. So because you labeled those sentence or section strips around the classroom, they're going to need to answer the question on their paper, but also write the label, the letter, or the number associated with the place that they found the answer. Once students have finished, they can check their answers with each other. Maybe they'll agree on all of them, maybe they'll disagree, and they'll have to go back to the sentences to check. Finally, you can check answers with the whole class, ideally with a copy of the text on your projector so that you can revisit the text to see where you found the answers to the questions. That way you can demonstrate to students how, even though the words are different in the text from the questions, it's still the same information. So this is a very simple activity with relatively little prep, but I love finding ways to take textbook activities and make them more engaging and collaborative in the classroom.